Shine, shine on harvest moon up in the sky. I ain't had no love since January, February, June, July.
Hello, and welcome to episode 2.2, the Harvest Moon edition of Notes from the Isle Seat, the podcast that covers the arts in northern Chautauqua County, sponsored by the 1891 Fredonia Opera House. My name is Tom Laughlin, and I'm your host as we bring you news and information about arts events at the Opera House and around the region, including interviews with artists and creators across the county. Well, the harvest moon, the full moon closest to the autumnal equinox, has come and gone, and there are only a few scant days left to summer. The full moon caught me by surprise as I was sitting in my backyard screen room, taking in a baseball game. Most people have already made the transition to football season and cheering on the Bills, but for me, well, it's still baseball season, as the pennant races heat up and playoffs begin. It's my way of extending summer out to its last licks, shall we say. As long as I can see green on the trees and hear the crack of the bat, it'll still be summer to me. For many others, however, it's already autumn, as the football season gets underway and the Bills start their quest for a Super Bowl championship. Here at the 1891 Fredonia Opera House, we're set to ramp up and present our fall 2022 season and beyond. And who better to discuss that season than the executive director of the Opera House, Mr. Rick Davis. I spoke with Rick to get an overview of what audiences can expect throughout the fall. Hello there, Mr. Rick Davis, executive director of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, it's always great to get you on at the very beginning. You know, I'm talking like I've been doing this for 10 years, but this is really our second season of the podcast. But, you know, it's always good to get your perspective at the beginning in the fall when things are getting started up so the listeners can get some idea of what's coming up at the
Sure.
At the Opera House. So let's get into it a little bit. Let's talk about, first of all, some of the things that you're looking for in terms of, like, you know, just developing the Opera House and its programming and everything like that for the coming fall or the coming year.
Yeah. So we've always had a focus of trying to present a variety of entertainment. In fact, it's part of our mission statement. We believe that artistic diversity enriches the quality of life. So we're always looking at almost a little bit of something for everybody. And certainly that's the focus of our fall this year, is presenting a variety of different events with a variety of genres of music, and we're doing some more lecture type events that I think are really interesting, and we're partnering with organizations to present some things. So it's something that we're really excited about. And we've got things in the work already for next year too, which I can talk about in a minute. So we've got some great classical music coming up with Julian Pegas and Maria Schlunig on October 28th, and it's an evening of cello and violin. Julian was one of our cellists for the Bach and Beyond Baroque Music Festival this past June, and he's an incredible musician. He plays with the Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra in the summer, and he's in Dallas the rest of the year. And he and his duo partner are going to perform the world premiere of a piece by David Amron, the composer David Amron, a contemporary piece. It's actually a piano trio version of a piece that he wrote for cello and violin with orchestra. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of excited about this world premiere.
Nice.
And yeah, and they're going to be here in October. We've got an incredible group of fiddling, step dancing siblings out of the Ottawa Valley in Canada. also coming in October, but early in the month, October 7th. The Fitzgeralds, they are two brothers and two sisters, all the same family, that are grand national champions in Canada in both fiddling and step dancing. They give a really high energy performance. We've been looking at them actually for a couple of years, and finally we're able to work something out with dates and to get them down here in the midst of their tour. So we're really excited about having them. That's going to be part of our Folk and Fredonia music series. We've got our lecture series that focuses on Chautauqua County history. That's going to look at the Chautauqua County Poor Farm, which I never knew existed until very recently, and is a fascinating story. Michelle Henry from the Chautauqua County Historical Society is going to talk about that. Pete Correale, who's this incredible stand-up comedian that is really made a name for himself. He and Sebastian Maniscalco have this incredible podcast together that you may have heard.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Pete?
Am I familiar with Pete? Oh my gosh. Okay, so the story goes, and I'll try to make it very quick, but I'm going to get it in here. Whenever you look at Pete Correale's bio, you look at the fact that he took one acting class at Fredonia and it changed his life. And he went, it was my acting for non-majors class. It was the one he took.
I did not know that. That's incredible. Well, he appeared here. He actually opened a few years ago for Jim Brewer. Of Saturday Night Live fame, and we sold out for the two of them, and Pete was terribly funny.
Yes,
he just a very funny guy, and he lives right here in Fredonia now. Married a local girl, and they live 3 blocks from the Opera House, and we've been trying to get him in here to headline a performance, and we've finally been able to do that, and that's in November.
Good.
So we're really excited that he's going to be here. So and we've got this incredible Beatles historian, Scott Fryman, who does these really interesting lectures called Deconstructing the Beatles, and he takes one of their albums and he uses talks about the album from a musical standpoint, and there goes into the Beatles' process of creating that album. And it's a little bit educational. It's a lot of entertainment. He has managed to get his hands on this great cache of footage of the Beatles that in their process of producing and recording that he uses in these lectures. And we're presenting Deconstructing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band also in November. Again, another one of these artists that we've kind of been looking at. He's been on our radar and we've wanted to get him here. A lot of these shows that we've worked out, they've been a little bit out of our price range for a number of years, and not that we're any richer than we used to be, but I'm finding that at post COVID, some of the artists are maybe a little bit more affordable than they used to be, and so we're jumping on that and trying to get them in here as we can. So that's some of the things that are coming up in the fall. We're also partnering with the college on Fredonia Marxonia again.
Good. And
so we've got, we're screening Animal Crackers at the end of September this month, September 29th. And that's followed the next night by a live stream on the big screen. Noah Diamond, who's does a wonderful Groucho Marx impersonation, but also is Marx Brothers expert himself, is doing a talk called "If You Get Near a Song, Play It," the Marx Brothers and music. And it's the third program of this type that he has done. He did 2 previous live streams during COVID from New York City, and he's doing that again. And we're going to actually live stream it on the big screen as it's happening on Friday, September 30th. So that you can watch from home if you can't get out. But come on down and be among other Marx Brothers enthusiasts and see it here on the big screen. So that's some of what's coming in the. Oh, and I can't forget Mark Twain. Mike Randall is in his 50th year, if you can believe that, of touring with Mark Twain Live, his Mark Twain show. Been here 3-4 times. Every show is different. If you've seen it before, it'll be a different show from what you've seen then. And I talked to Mike a number of weeks ago, and I asked him if it's gotten any easier over the years, and he said what's easier is getting into makeup. Doesn't take as long. So.
Well, I look forward to talking to Mike too. I'll probably get him on the podcast too. He's always great. I had him when he did Charles Dickens last year, I believe. So he's always great to talk to.
He is. So he's coming also in November. So we've really got a variety of different things coming this fall that we're excited about. And that's in addition to the Live at the Met shows and our art and architecture on screen programs and our movie series. And we're doing one National Theater Live program this fall. It's called Jack Absolute Flies Again. And it's written by the same guys who wrote One Man, Two Governors that we have presented twice to really good sized audiences who went out of here laughing hysterically and telling us that they haven't had as good a time at the theater in a long time, that it was truly a funny evening. And so we're hoping Jack Absolute Flies Again lives up to that hype.
Well, if they have James Corden in the title role, maybe
it will. I don't think they do.
But... Oh well, they have somebody just as good. I mean, that is the National Theater, and all this is on a new website, right?
Yes, you can. We have a new website that launched this past week, and it's still the same site address, fredopera.org. But it's a new design. It has a more modern look to it. It's a little streamlined. We're still working out some of the bugs on it. It's some things you just can't get to your liking until it's live, till you're seeing it actually and how it functions with people using it and buying tickets and stuff. So there's still some things we're working out, and we don't have all of the events uploaded yet. We're working on that as well. But yeah, we're really happy with the new website. We worked with a great couple, John and Aaron Phillips here in Fredonia, great local business called Third and Market, that did the design for us and have done the programming and made it so that it's actually relatively simple for us to maintain and update, which is what was important to us. Our old site we had since I think 2007, and there really was nothing wrong with it. It served us well, but we wanted a newer site that is going to make us ready for some technological advancements that we're hoping to make with the site as we move forward as well. So,
well, one of the things I like about the site is that my podcast is now right there, and you can click right on it and play it through the website.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
that's a big improvement for me.
It is a huge improvement.
Now
very accessible.
Very accessible. Now, before I let you go, you got to talk about, I know you got a fundraising barbecue coming up, so let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so this is actually, we usually do this in June, early June, prior to the Bach and Beyond Baroque Music Festival, because it supports the Bach and Beyond. It's our Bach barbecue, bake sale, and basket auction. How's that for an alliterative mouthful? But this year there were other events, very similar events happening that same weekend that other organizations were presenting as fundraisers, and we just didn't feel that there needed to be one more chicken barbecue and bake sale going on. So we did not hold it in June. We're having it on September 17th. We'll be in West Barker Common by the gazebo. We have we'll have baked goods starting at 9 o'clock from a lot of our members and staff and supporters. The barbecue itself will begin being served at 11. And we have a couple of baskets that are following an eat, drink, and be merry theme. So they all have some booze. They all have some lottery tickets, and they all have restaurant gift cards in them to local businesses. So and two original pieces of artwork. We have a watercolor that Gary Eckhart created and donated, and we have a pastel that Larry Erbscheit did that was donated by one of our former board members. So there's some great artwork, great booze, great chances at winning the lottery, and opportunity for evenings out at some of our local restaurants. And the barbecue itself, it's a great barbecue. It's Hector and Michelle Alvirio who do a wonderful job. Half chicken, corn on the cob, buttered baby reds, rolling butter. It's $14. You can get tickets in advance from any Opera House staff member or board member, or at the box office, or you can get them that morning starting at 9 o'clock.
Okay, great, Rick. Thank you. Thank you very much for all of that. Now, before I go, I just got to make sure we get this out to the public. One thing, as far as I know, all the COVID restrictions have been lifted from the Opera House. Is that correct?
Right. We are not requiring anything with regard to COVID. You are welcome to wear a mask if you would like to do so, and we still do have masks available if you've forgotten. But we are not requiring that you wear one. And most of the audiences lately have been going maskless, but there are probably maybe a quarter of the audience are still wearing masks, and that's just fine.
Okay. All right. But I just want to make sure people understood that, because I know that those things are changing all the time. Well, Rick Davis, thank you very much. I appreciate, obviously, your coming on, and I know I'm going to see a lot of you over the coming year, and looks like some good programming coming up. I'm particularly looking forward to the Fitzgerald, so we'll deal with that later.
Great. Well, thanks, Tom. It's I love being on our own podcast.
Yeah. And it's always nice to have a boss to talk to who's so easy as you are.
Thanks.
All right, we'll see you, Rick. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
As always, if you want more information on any events at the Opera House, just call the box office at 716-679-1891. Or check out the newly designed website at www.fredopera.org.
You've got to have a dream that lets you soar on your imagination where you've never gone before. A dream that makes you try.
The Fredonia Jazz Society is kicking off their season with a couple of events. The first is a dinner hour program of music and information at Domus Fair on September 22nd, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Fredonia Jazz professor Nick Weiser will preview the upcoming Jazz Society season. The main event, though, is a presentation at the 1891 Fredonia Opera House of the feature film Knights of Swing, about a high school swing band's journey to success. One of the main players in the creation of this film is Emilio Palame, a 1976 SUNY Fredonia graduate who was a member of the award-winning Fredonia Jazz Ensemble in the mid-1970s. I caught up with Emilio at his California home to ask him about how this major project came to be. Well, it's really great to have Emilio Palame, who is the everything guy for the upcoming movie at the Fredonia Opera House, the Knights of Swing. So welcome to the podcast, Emilio. Glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Tom.
Great. Let's start off just a little bit with some background, because we know that you are a SUNY Fredonia graduate from some time ago and stuff like that, and you're also a Buffalo native. How does it feel to be reconnecting to Fredonia, Buffalo area, Western New York?
Well, I have so many fond memories of performing with my band, both at Fredonia State University and around the venues in Buffalo. We played at the Tralfamadore Cafe when it was the original Tralfamadore, when it was down in the basement. We also played at this place called Starvin' Marvin's, which was on the lake, and we also played at another place. Aside from Art Park and some of the big concerts that we did, there was a few little clubs. Well, one of them that I really enjoyed playing at was a place called Eduardo's, because Buddy Rich had played there. A bunch of the major big bands had played there. So they, at one point, they did a Buffalo Jazz Report, and they had a caricature of me, Count Basie, and Buddy Rich on the cover, and I was really honored by that. It was a dream come true, because I always dreamed of playing at Eduardo's, with a band. So it was pretty exciting for me.
Do you have like just one little specific memory of your time at Fredonia, a story or something like that you can tell us?
I was awarded a graduate assistantship at the college, so I taught jazz arranging, jazz improvisation, and theory for non-majors, and had my own office and taught private students also jazz. And in my graduate year, we went to the Notre Dame Jazz Festival. That was 1977. And I won Outstanding Composer Arranger and Outstanding Keyboardist. And we performed with that band. There was at least almost, I'd say 2,500 people to 3,000 people that we performed for. So they had this huge venue that they had at Notre Dame. And it was a thrill to be able to perform and have people giving us standing ovations and cheering and winning the awards. It was extremely it was edifying, because we worked so hard, and I worked so hard, honing my arranging skills and playing, and it was a real deep sense of accomplishment doing that.
Now, this must have been some passion project for you, because you are the producer, you're the director, you arranged all of the music, you acted it, you have a substantial role as King Arthur, the principal of Castle High, and I don't know I don't know how you did all that. You have to tell me how you did all that.
To answer your question about it being a passion project, this whole story started with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Roland Jacks. Mm-hmm. And Roland and I he's the executive producer of the movie. He created the world of the Knights of Swing. He wrote the original story. And all of those songs are his original songs that I took and turned them into what they are in the movie. Roland and I always joke that I take his gems and I polish them. Uh-huh. And so Roland and I have been friends for about 21 years, and Roland is 88 years old.
Yeah.
And he was actually in a band here in Linwood, California, called the Knights of Swing, at a place called the Castle. They nicknamed their school the Castle.
Wow.
And so I mean, it took us, because of the pandemic and that, it took us 3 years to make the Knights of Swing. And I have done orchestrations and arrangements for him for over these last 21 years. And 3 years ago, he sent me a song called Schoolroom Blues, which is one of the main songs in the movie. And he said, well, what do you think of this? And what do you think, what can you do with this? And so I orchestrated, and because of my big band background, I was kind of a natural for this. I arranged that as a big band song, and he loved it. Then he sent me You Gotta Have a Dream, which is another one of the big songs in the movie. And then it just started. Then he concocted this story and started writing what we thought was going to be an episodic series. He wrote 10 episodes of it.
Uh-huh.
And my co-director and co-writer of the screenplay, David Boutel, and I took those 10 episodes, condensed it down into the feature film form of the movie. And we also deleted some of the scenes that and replace them with some scenes that David and I wrote ourselves to bolster. And just so your audience members know, The Knights of Swing is set in 1947. It is a time when racial divide was very, very extreme. No one, blacks and whites did not use the same drinking fountains, the same restrooms. There were clubs that were segregated. So one of the aspects of the Knights of Swing is that there's two young black men in the band, and the community is in uproar about it because they don't like the integration of the band, even though the school is already partially integrated. Because this is the time around 1947 where bands and schools started to become slowly integrated. And so there's a big conflict between some of the members of the community and the band, and they want to stop the band because they don't like seeing this integration between the races. And so it's a very important aspect of the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot in the movie that has an aspect. One of the other things that I got from the movie actually that I don't know that I saw too much in the publicity stuff that I looked at, but there's also this interesting thread about post-traumatic stress syndrome from a recovering World War II vet, which I found pretty interesting too.
Yes, and Roland had quite a few friends of his that came back from the war that were really, they back then they call it shell shocked, and we call it PTSD now. And yes, our main character's older brother is really mean to him because he'd suffered so bad during the war, and it's an interesting thing because he falls in love as and I won't be too much of a spoiler, but he falls in love with a young girl who was a victim of polio. And it's interesting that someone like her, who was broken in her own way, helps someone who is broken in his own way. And we think that that's a really important aspect of the movie. And I'm really glad you brought that up, Tom, because it is an issue that people are going through since COVID. There's a new PTSD, what they call CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, where people have a collection of things that have been stressful in their lives, and they all kind of mount up. And a lot of people went through that. Especially, my son's a high school biology teacher, and he's had a really difficult time because of the behavioral aspects and things that have happened because of COVID.
Yeah, I do relate to that a little bit, but that, you know, because the scene that got to me, as a matter of fact, was the one where the younger brother is I believe he's trying to get the right sound on his reed to his saxophone, and his brother comes in and just, you know, says he has to stop playing, but he, you know, they don't realize that it wasn't the music, it was the wailing of the sound, like a wailing of a siren, you know.
Yeah.
Really kind of a very powerful scene there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, actually, in one of the versions of the edit that we did, we had an actual air raid siren that came in behind it, but it played too on the nose. You know, I'm glad that you realized what it was. The squeaking is like, because he says, I heard screaming, I heard, you know, and it brought it all back to him. So yeah, right. Thank you for saying that. That was very, very, very perceptive of you.
Well, I just watched the movie. You know,
well, I appreciate that because that's why we do things the way we do them, so to touch people's hearts. And that's one of the, I think, the most important things about this movie is that it is a family movie. It is a movie that touches on forgiveness, on healing, on following your dreams, on realizing that maybe we all are one. And the thing that brings all these people together is the music. And the music is there, as Mr. Miller, the band director, says, it's become a refuge to them. It's like their home. And I joke with him, and I say, you sure you're not talking about yourself? And it's true. And it's true for him too, because we find out that he had lost his wife to cancer, and he's an older gentleman now, and he's looking for love. And there's so many different subplots to the movie that all really come together in the end that we feel like we really accomplished what we wanted to in terms of this.
Yes.
Of people's hearts.
The movie has a ton of heart. I mean, that you can't miss that. It has a ton of heart. And it's really lovely in that regard. And your character, in fact, is just like, I wish I had you as a school principal when I was going to school. God.
It's interesting. Thank you. It's interesting because Roland actually wrote that role for me. So
Uh-huh.
because he had seen me act in other things, and uh, he said, I think this would be perfect for you. You're going to be the jazz pianist principal of the school. So I obviously had a lot of fun with that, but it was very challenging directing and acting at the same time. It's a good thing I had David because I trusted his judgment as far as like what he was seeing on the monitor.
You do an amazing job, by the way, with shooting the band scenes when people are actually playing some of the numbers. I mean, the cuts, the camera positions. How did you manage to accomplish that?
Where it really came together, Tom, was in the editing room
Hmm.
because my partner David and Frank, who worked on the edit with me, uh, had a real musical sense of the timing of when to see what, and this harkens back. I don't know if you I'm sure you remember when you would watch the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and they would do a feature with Doc Severinsen and the band.
Right.
They had a producer in a booth calling out these shots, saxophones, trombones, drums, and I always loved when they did a special feature number that you'd be on the drummer, or you'd be on Doc when he's singing, and then the same thing that they used to do with the Boston Pops when Arthur Fiedler was conducting, when it would go to the French horns, you'd be on the French horns. And people really relate to that because they're seeing, because some people don't know the difference between when the saxophones are playing or the trombones are playing. They hear the music and they enjoy it. But this kind of leads their ears into like what's really going on. And I've always been a big fan of that when I watch movies that where the camera leads you to what you're listening to, and I really wanted to make sure that came through.
What I know that the movie has been released. I believe it's Vimeo on demand. What's the future for this for this movie?
Well, we're actually in negotiation right now with a couple of different aggregators to get on Amazon or Netflix or Apple TV, and it's not an easy road for an independent film. It would have been easier if we had more named talent in the movie. Richard Neal, who's our lead, has been in quite a few films. I've been in over 100 movies, but we're not, Clark Gable or Brad Pitt or whatever you want, So, and that distributors want to always see like some sort of named talent in the movie, but because the movie has gotten such incredible reviews and awards, we've won Best Picture in the Rome Film Awards, Milan, London, Paris, and then we just won 5 awards at the Indie Music Channel Awards for Best Jazz Song, Best Jazz Producer. We won we did a music video of the Jitterbug contest in the movie with the song "Ooh Baby Baby." Ooh Baby, You're Driving Me Crazy, and that won for best overall music video of the year. So we've garnered a lot of accolades over the course of the last 6 months or so since we released the movie on Vimeo on demand in March, and so now we're taking these accolades that we've received and reviews. We've gotten some just absolutely fantastic reviews in music magazines and so forth, and we actually have a soundtrack for the movie that's released now on iTunes and Pandora, all of the major streaming services, and we've also submitted it for a few of the songs for Grammy consideration.
Well, listen, Emilio, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you one way or the other, whether it's Zoom or in person. We hope it's in person, but if it's Zoom, that's going to be just as great.
Hey Tom, thank you so much for the your insights into the movie and taking the time to watch it and having me on your show. I really appreciate it. You're a stand-up guy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emilio. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Enjoy it out there.
All right, thank you. Take care.
For a swingin' time, come on out to the Opera House and catch the screening of Nights of Swing and its lush big band score. Nights of Swing will be at the 1891 Fredonia Opera House on Friday, September 23rd at 7 o'clock p.m. Tickets are $10 for adults, $5 for students. Here's the arts calendar for the upcoming 2 weeks. Both art galleries at the Rockefeller Art Center have exhibits closing soon. Remembrance, an exhibit of 200 paintings by Fredonia graduate Veronica Gray, will be up until Saturday, September 17th, while Independent Motion, 12 animated films from around the world, will be up in the Marion Art Gallery until Thursday, September 22nd. See the Art Gallery website for more dates and times. Dr. Chen Yi, an accomplished international composer, is the inaugural Sorrel Visiting Artist at SUNY Fredonia. A concert of her works, featuring School of Music faculty, will be performed on Saturday, September 17th at 8 p.m. in the Roush Recital Hall. Admission is free. The Western New York Chamber Orchestra will kick off its season with a concert on Sunday, September 18th at 4 p.m. The music of American composer John Musto, along with the Fredonia Chamber Choir, will be featured, along with music by Ravel and Schubert. Tickets are $20 for the general public. The Rockefeller Arts Center will present its first DFT Pops concert, The Sounds of Soul, on Saturday, September 24th at 7:30 p.m. in King Concert Hall. Groove to the sounds of Motown and groups such as the Four Tops, the Temptations, the Supremes, Aretha Franklin, and Lionel Richie. Tickets are $20 to $35 for the general public, $5 to $20 for students. The Nusantara Arts Gamelan Ensemble will present an evening of gamelan music from the island of Java in Indonesia. The recital takes place on Sunday, September 25th, beginning at 4 p.m. in the Roush Recital Hall. Fredonia graduate Matt Dunning created the ensemble from his experiences living in Indonesia from 2011 through 13 and studying the music. Admission is free. Finally, upcoming events at the 1891 Fredonia Opera House include the next installment of the Art and Architecture series. Pompeii, Sin City, discusses the lives of the citizens of Pompeii through their buried remains and artifacts from the volcanic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. Pompeii, Sin City will be screened on Saturday, September 24th at 1 p.m. Tickets are $15 for adults, $10 for students. Also coming up is the next cinema series film, Mac and Rita. Starring Diane Keaton, the film tells the story of a 30-year-old woman who comes to inhabit the body of a 70-year-old woman and discovers a new sense of freedom and celebration in the exchange. Mac and Rita screens on Saturday, September 24th and Tuesday, September 27th. Both shows begin at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are $7 for adults, $6.50 for Opera House members, and $5 for students. And don't forget the Bach and Beyond Barbecue Big Sale and Auction on Saturday, September 17th, beginning at 9 a.m. The barbecue lunch will be available from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tickets are $14.
Signore Vele will oblige us at the piano. Signore Vele.
Signor Ravelli's first selection will be Somewhere My Love Lies Sleeping with a male chorus. Say, if you get near a song, play it.
Fredonia will forever be connected with the Marx Brothers and the movie Duck Soup, and it's for that reason that the Freedonia Marxonia first got its start in the late 1980s took a little hiatus, then came back in 2009 under the supervision of the Fredonia Reed Library and research librarian Cynthia Yokum. The past two Freedonia Marxonia festivals have featured the work of Noah Diamond, a Marx Brothers historian, researcher, performer, and fanatic. This year, Noah has put together his third in a series of 3 documentaries on the Marx Brothers, entitled If You Get Near a Song, Play It. I got the two of them together with me to talk about the upcoming festival and the legacy of the Marx Brothers. Well, it's really very exciting for me as a Marx Brothers fans to have two Marx Brothers aficionados with me on the show. I have Miss Cynthia Yokum. Cindy Yokum, she's a reference librarian at SUNY Fredonia, and she is responsible every year for organizing the Fredonia Marxonia Festival, which happens most of the time in the fall semester at SUNY Fredonia. And also with me, the world's greatest Marxicologist, Mr. Noah Diamond, whose upcoming Marx Brothers film, If You Get Near a Song, Play It, is going to be the feature of this coming Fredonia Marxonia. So welcome, Cindy. Welcome, Noah.
Hi, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's start. Cindy, let's start with you because you organized this whole thing. So let's get out right away what's going to be happening during this year's Fredonia Marxonia. What have you got for us?
Okay, on Thursday, September 29th at 3 o'clock, here in Reed Library, we're going to have an opening reception, and we'll have little refreshments in honor of Groucho's 132nd birthday display featuring music in the Marx Brothers. Members of the Student Opera Theater Association and the American Choral Directors Association will be singing Hail Fredonia from Duck Soup, and we'll just have a nice time here at 3 o'clock on Thursday. That evening at 7 o'clock at the Opera House will be Animal Crackers, the Marx Brothers 1930s movie. And so we're looking forward to that. And then, as you said, the feature, the highlight of our Fredonia Marxonia 2022 will be Noah Diamond's live stream of his If You Get Near a Song, Play It, the Marx Brothers in music. And this is a third in a trilogy of productions made by Noah for Fredonia Marxonia. We're so happy that Noah's again agreed to produce his work. The first two are just beautiful, and I know this third one's going to be great too. So you can live stream it, you can view it from home anywhere in the world, and you can also, if you're in Fredonia, you can go to the Opera House where it'll be live streamed on the big screen. And so if you want that little bit of a live experience, come to the Opera House at 7 o'clock on Friday, September 30th. And so that will, go ahead, Tom.
Is admission free?
Absolutely, everything's free.
That's really going to make a very good evening for people who enjoy the Marx Brothers. And let me ask you, Cindy, before I turn to Noah, how you two met. How did you find him?
In 2016, I had the pleasure to go to New York City. I was just interested, and Noah brought back to off-Broadway at one of the Marx Brothers musicals, the first one they did, called I'll Say She Is. Had a fantastic time with that in 2016. In 2017, Noah was kind enough to agree to come to Fredonia to be our guest speaker for that year's theme, which is Broadway and the Marx Brothers. Did a great job. And then in 2020, we were going to have Noah back when the theme would be New York City and the Marx Brothers. But COVID came. Well, Noah saved the day. Noah was able to produce this beautiful virtual program, which was called Home Again, the Marx Brothers in New York City. And then in 2021, he did another one for us. And in 2022, he's completing the trilogy. And that's the story of how I met Noah Diamond.
So you actually saw I'll Say She Is, huh? You're lucky.
I did. I was very lucky.
Yeah,
Yes.
indeed. All right. Let me turn to Noah Diamond. Noah, you are an amazing jack of all trades as far as creativity and production. And I don't know that I've ever met somebody who has so much interest and expertise in the Marx Brothers. So I dread to ask you this question, but how did it all get started?
Well, it got started very gradually. In early childhood, I was a kid obsessed with books. And I was particularly interested in my parents' books. You know, I had my library of children's books and all the beloved Dr. Seuss and Maurice Sendak. But downstairs in the living room on my parents' shelves were all the really interesting books, you know, big art books and old leather-bound things that had been in the family for a long time. And I just knew that the secrets of the world were on that shelf. And even before I could read or anything, I used to love to pull those big books down and just look through them. You know, what is this? You know, Vincent van Gogh, who's that? You know, it's a real education. And one of the books that they happened to have was a book called Groucho, Harpo, Chico, and Sometimes Zeppo, which was written by Joe Adamson, came out in 1973, and remains, probably it would still be the most common answer if you ask Marx Brothers fans what their favorite book about the team is. And as a child, the photographs in this book just mesmerized me. I just had to know who these guys were. And looking at it in retrospect, I can see why in a child's eyes, the Marx Brothers were so fascinating, you know, not that different from what I was used to seeing in Dr. Seuss and Maurice Sendak and the Muppets. And, you know, they seemed continuous with all those things. So I became aware of who they were. And as I gradually became, you know, literate, I started to read that book. And because of it, I wound up knowing a lot about them before I ever saw their films. I'm old enough to have grown up in a time when it wasn't so easy to find old movies. And, you know, the hunting expedition of trying to get all the Marx Brothers movies into your VCR was a big part of the fun of falling in love with them. I think by the time I was 12, I was earnestly pursuing the films. And then I started to develop as a writer and a performer and an artist of various hats. And although not all of my work has been about the Marx Brothers, a great deal of it has. And I think part of the reason for that is the connections I've made with people like Cindy, and many, many other people. Marx Brothers fans are wonderful people, and the love that they have for the Marx Brothers is instantly recognizable. The Marxes aren't totally unique that way. You know, Beatles fans are like this too. You want to know everything about them. You want every recorded moment of their work that's available to be on an endless loop in your living room. And it's just been a wonderful subject for me.
It really is remarkable how deep you've delved into the Marx Brothers to the point where, you know, reconstructing that musical, I'll Say She Is, which does not have a complete libretto or anything. It was never filmed, it was never recorded, and yet you painstakingly put it together into a what I found to be, when I looked at the 17-minute clip on YouTube, to be an extraordinarily polished production of that musical. That's just a labor of love. I don't even know where you got the money to produce it.
Yeah, well, that was definitely one of the major parts of the challenge of getting it done. It was largely crowdfunded, you know, that's also a tribute to the fans. And, you know, I wanted to restore I'll Say She Is because personally, I just wanted it to exist so badly. You know, I'd spent my whole life reading that the Marx Brothers did 3 Broadway musicals, I'll Say She Is, The Coconuts, and Animal Crackers. And the second 2 of those, they adapted them for film, and they are revived on stage fairly regularly. But there was this missing one, you know, this gap on the shelf, and I just wanted that gap to be filled. But in the process of figuring out how to get that done, I wound up making all these connections and realizing, oh, I'm not alone here. You know, there's a lot of people who really want this show to exist, and it's really thanks to them that we were able to get it done.
So let me turn our attention now to what's coming up. You have this series of 1-hour documentary types things. Home Again, the Marx Brothers in Manhattan, There's Nothing Like Liberty, the Marx Brothers Across America. And now we're going to see this third one. If you get near a song, play it. And of course, that particular title comes from Animal Crackers, where Chico is kind of fooling around the piano and Groucho system. Hey, if you get near a song, play it. You know, it's very funny. Tell us, can you give us a little preview of what this is going to be about? I mean, I understand it's going to be about the music, but their music is so incredibly integral to what it is that they do.
Yes, yes, they are musicians as much as they are comedians. And in their earliest days on stage, they were mostly a musical act, although they were doing comedy then too. They really evolved from being a musical act with comedy in it to being a comedy act with music in it. But it was always a big part of what they do. And it seemed like the right thing to focus on for this particular moment. Over the last couple of years, these pandemic era Fredonia Marxonia presentations have really they've been the main thing I've been working on and thinking about. And they're a little, it's not a new art form or anything that grand, but it's a hybrid of many different things. As Cindy explained, the original plan for 2020 was to deliver a live illustrated lecture at the Opera House in Fredonia. And as with my Broadway presentation in 2017, that would have been basically a slideshow. I mean, a very sophisticated multimedia slideshow, but a visual presentation to accompany me on stage talking for 90 minutes. And when we started working on Home again in 2020, the first thought was, well, we'll just stream the slideshow and I'll narrate it live and it'll be essentially a version of what it would have been in person. But in the process of working on it, I realized, well, there's an opportunity to do something a little different here, make it something a little closer to a documentary film with location shooting and some scenes that have been pre-edited, little segments that can be dropped into the slideshow. And since I was in New York and the presentation in 2020 was about New York, and at that moment in the pandemic, especially, just making contact with the outside world, showing people some recent footage of life in the city would be very meaningful. Then the next year with There's Nothing Like Liberty, sort of went a step further, making it a little bit closer to a film and a little bit less of a lecture. And this time around, there were many suggestions since we went from the Marx Brothers in New York City to the Marx Brothers in America. Lots of people suggested, oh, so you'll do the Marx Brothers and Earth, or the Marx Brothers and the Milky Way, Marx Brothers and the sky. But it was hard to figure out exactly what the angle on that would be. And then the idea came up. It was originally, I believe, the suggestion of my wife, Amanda Sisk, who's my collaborator and directed I'll Say She Is off-Broadway. And the idea that by focusing on music is, although not a literal place, as a figurative place, it was home to the Marx Brothers, maybe even in a more profound way than New York City was their home. And that it would also be a way to talk about something that's extremely important to the Marx Brothers and their fans, but that also would serve as, yes, a third chapter, a final entry in the trilogy, but it's also kind of the party after the show. A chance to just sing some songs and have a good time and celebrate the Marx Brothers, but also celebrate this sort of strange journey that we've been on over the last few years with these presentations. What a long, strange triptych it's been, has been a log line that's occurred to me.
Now, Cindy, let me turn to you for just a second, because these documentaries that Noah has produced obviously don't come free. So how did you get the funding? Where does the funding come to support this?
Well, thank you, Tom. Yes, Noah's presentations are, over these past 3 years, have been supported by grants from the Carnahan Jackson Humanities Fund. That's part of the Fredonia College Foundation. And Noah's presentation, as well as Fredonia Marxonia as a whole, is supported by the Hahn Family Fredonia Marxonia Fund, also the Fredonia College Foundation. So that's how we get the funding. One of the comments, if I may, on the YouTube channel where Noah has these available said that they're worth $1 million, essentially. They're $1 million products done at relative pennies.
Yeah.
They're just amazing. So they're just great. Yeah.
They're fantastic. I mean, they're very high quality and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, Noah, is there, when we get a chance to see if you get near a song, play it. Are you highlighting specific tunes? Are you highlighting any kind of thematic thing about the Marx Brothers?
If you get near a song, play it. It kind of has two strands running through it. One is a historical overview of the Marx Brothers' career seen through the prism of their musical work. That part of the evening is similar in tone to what we've done in the last 2 years. Lots of visuals and my narrated lecture, sort of taking you through the story, organized mostly around the songwriters who created this material for them. And then the other strand running throughout that one is a series of musical performances, demonstrations of some of these musical selections. And for me, that's really the highlight. The musical performances have been submitted by Marx Brothers fans. And so there's a wide range of approaches, and unveiling those is the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I could talk to you, both of you, for hours. Cindy, I know you're sitting there breathlessly listening.
I love it. I love listening to it. Thank you. No,
yes,
it's great.
Yes. Is there anything I've missed about what's coming up? Anything to add?
Can I just add one thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to acknowledge the partnership with the Opera House. Since 2015 is when we started the partnership with the Opera House, and they've been so great and supportive, and showing live events there, showing the films. The Opera House has just been wonderful to Fredonia Marxonia over these years.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, so much. I wish I had more time, Noah. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but little 15-minute segment, it's about the best I can do for now. But maybe someday I'll get the opportunity to come down to Manhattan and knock on your door and have a good time. I would really like that.
I hope so.
But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I want to recommend my listeners out there that noahdiamond.com. It's a fantastically rich website. He has both of his previous documentaries there, Home Again, the Marx Brothers in New York City, and There's Nothing Like Liberty, the Marx Brothers in America. And I am sure that when the time comes, if you get near a song, play it, will also be there. And I recognize there's so many things. Listen to his Marx Brothers Council podcast, which he's got. The 17-minute segment from I'll Say She Is dazzling. So my recommendation is go there on that website, and you will probably spend more time than you really should browsing it, because there's so much interesting stuff there. Oh, and buy his books too. So thank you very much. Noah, we look forward to seeing your live stream on September 30th.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy, for arranging all of this and your work with Fredonia Marxonia to keep it alive since it first started in 1987. It's wonderful of you to do that as well.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll be talking to you. Take care, everyone. Kicking off the Freedonia Marxonia event this year will be a screening of the Marx Brothers classic Animal Crackers on Friday, September 29th at 7 p.m. Noah Diamond's documentary, If You Get Near a Song, Play It, will be screened on Saturday, September 30th at 7 p.m. Admission is free for both events. If you're any kind of Marx Brothers fan, don't miss this year's events. You bet your life it'll be hilarious. And that's it for this Harvest Moon edition of Notes from the Aisle Seat. My thanks to Rick Davis, Emilio Palame, Cindy Yokum, and Noah Diamond for being my guests on this episode. Notes from the Aisle Seat is a production of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House in Fredonia, New York. For more information on any of the Opera House's events, call the box office at 716-679-1891, visit the website at www.fredopera.org, or email at operahouse@fredopera.org. Notes from the Aisle Seat is now available wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and also on the Opera House YouTube channel. If you like this podcast, please consider following us by clicking the follow button on our website at aisleseat.podbean.com and spreading the word through your social media feeds. If you have an arts event you'd like featured on the podcast, why don't you drop us a line at operahouse@fredopera.org, and we'll see about featuring your event. Please try to give us a month's advance notice if possible to facilitate timely scheduling. If you have any suggestions, comments, or criticisms of the podcast, just drop us a line at operahouse@fredopera.org. We'll be glad to receive your feedback. Our next episode will be on September 28th, 2022. I'm Tom Laughlin, and until then, be safe out there and be kind to one another.